What's up, my comic book brothers and my comic book sisters from another mister? Today we're going to do a full story review of Spawn, issue number 311 through 313, The Cult of Omega, the full story, brought to you by Rated Comics. Before we get into the content, timestamps are in the description below if you wish to go from issue to issue. Also, link in description if you wish to purchase any of the comic books in this review. Support the art, support the industry. Last but not least, hey, if you like the content we're throwing out, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to this channel. It'll help Rated Comics to make more comic book reviews and comic book related content like this, and more full story breakdowns as well. And with all that being said, let's get into the content. Previously, Spawn is on the hunt for someone or something insidious. Demons hiding amongst humans. Secret dealings with Big Pharma. Dark plans are about to be exposed. There is a storm coming, and Spawn is at its center. So in Bursa, northwest Turkey, a regional unrest has been gripped this nation as a growing strain of disease is seemingly being underplayed by the local government, even as the total reported cases continues to grow. Reporters are at unrest, people at unrest, and this reporter goes up to this Mayor Utambi and tells him, hey man, I gotta ask you a few questions. Even though the guards try to stop him and shield him, he's like, man, I'm just doing my job, get your hands off of me. And he tells Mayor Utambi, we obtained bank records that show you profited in the past decade from these companies, along with nearly a dozen of your extended family. Do you have a comment? And this mayor's like, okay, well, look, I cherish privacy and nothing else is more valuable than one's solitude. We're doing everything we can, just a typical political answer within our powers to mitigate all this. Tell your paper and tell everyone I wish for their continued health. And the reporter's like, oh yeah, what about all the thousands of dead people, all the unrest? He just rolls up his window. It's like, we got to dip out, we got to go. So Mayor Utambi does this guy, this confidant, or whoever he is in the car, tells him, you said this wasn't going to go public. It wasn't supposed to. Well, someone leaked it and we're gonna have to look into it now. Says the mayor. A little too late for that. Gavin, the reporter that asked all the questions, was like, man, they're running away like cowards. And his camera guy is like, they can't deflect forever. But calling out their bluff on the bank accounts, that was a hell of a bluff, man. I know, but they can't deflect forever, so we gotta piece those bank records together. So it wasn't even all true. Reporters can do that sometimes, just try to gaslight you or try to set you up for a trap or something. So they drive back to their hotel. Gavin goes upstairs or goes to his room to take a shower. As he closes his door behind him to take that shower, he gets decked in his head and shot in his head, and that's the end of his life. So meanwhile, hundreds of miles away, as night falls, the creatures who thrive in darkness emerge. It's their time to play, to morph, to transform and bond together into a power in which the whole is much, much stronger than its parts. I believe this guy's name is Rebirth. He was introduced later in Spawn issue 323. I'll put the card up top and link in description if you guys want to check that out. But we're in Spawn issue 311, so if you just checked out this channel for the first time, hey, I'll put the playlist at the end of the video and you can take your pick, because I'm trying to cover all Spawn content from 296 all the way up to its current issues. Not to mention we cover Gunslinger, Scorched, and King Spawn issues as well. So his butler knocks on the door. Rebirth goes up. He's just tidying up. He's informed that the guests are waiting for him downstairs. And what this party is all about, even though he's a charming fellow, working the ladies and working the room, it's all about the good fortune and that his company has something to share with the people there. They all been informed that his Big Pharma division is on the verge of some breakthrough research. That's why they're asked to be there. Everyone's made their donations. Some people have made more donations or exceeded the donation or the minimum donation or whatnot. 3,600 miles to the southwest in Calcutta, India, there are some creatures of all sorts out tonight. This one in particular has been hunting, not an enemy like most days, but someone who shouldn't even be walking, let alone live. Now the thing is, what if what Spawn suspects is true? Then the rip in time he caused that somehow vaulted all undetermined number of other Hellspawns forward to the present day may also be the reason why Spawn is missing a few of his undead warriors. That makes sense. And that's referencing issue 301, which you can check out the link in the description. We did do a review on that one. We did cover that issue. The thing is, their loyalty should have been embedded into them when he awoke them from their deaths. Yet somehow they are hearing the call of another master. Spawn isn't willing to tolerate that. And after his recent battle with the medieval Spawn, he has no idea if he can trust his own instincts anymore. For a soldier like Al Simmons, doubting his own abilities is something your enemies seek out so they can eliminate. So instead of waiting for them to show, he'll hunt them down instead. Later, Jim Downing shows up. "Hello, Al." "Sit down, Jim," says Al. "Well, I guess it's nice to finally meet you, so where are they?" says Al. "Huh, and you're just gonna come in here and waltz and make demands," says Jim Downing. "That's not smart. You wouldn't want to do that. Not when we both could be of use to each other. I mean, you don't want me as your enemy." So Spawn's like, "I want them back." "Your team? That's not how it's gonna work, dude." Jim continues with this dialogue. "We all want the same thing. Screw heaven and hell. I'm with you on that. But this new war that you've started, you don't get to run the show. You're not alone anymore. You understand that, right? There's more of us now." "Huh," says Al, and the mighty Jim Downing now has all the answers. "Not all of them," says Jim. "But here's what I do know. You swatted a hornet's nest a couple times. First, you trapped them here on Earth by shutting down the dead zones, and now they're pissed off. Instead of heaven and hell being at each other's throats, they're banding together because if they can't get back home, then they'll burn Earth to the ground instead." And Al's like, "Yo, man, I know what I'm doing." "Yeah? Then why are you here? Why aren't you chasing down the bad guys?" "Because they're trying to find out who the bad guys are," says Al. "Like you said, everyone's picking a side. As much as I like to accept that, one like you should know at what side you're on. I still have to ask," says Al. "I don't know exactly when you came out of your coma, but if your powers are anywhere close to mine, you know that you're a target." And we see this flashback of these demons or angels or demons angels running rampant, taking out a hell Spawn. And Spawn tells him, "The reason why I want them back is to protect you. Look at what they did in Turkey last week. If they tore through a half a dozen villages looking for something, I had a Spawn reading on my computer over there. Now it's gone, which means you're not ready for them to find you. At least not yet." So Jim and Al take a walk, and Al tells him moving around is probably the only thing that saved you so far. And Jim Downey's like, "Yo, man, you tested my ego, man. I had a couple runners with them already, and I did okay." And Spawn's like, "Are you listening? Those are scouts. You get that? Not warriors or hunters. They're nothing on a scale of 100. They're 2. So if it took you more than 5 seconds to obliterate them, you're more fucked than I thought. How long did it take you?" "It doesn't matter," says Jim Downey, because he knows it took him about 5 seconds, if not longer than that. "Of course it matters," says Al. "Everything matters." And Jim Downey, he doesn't like his ego being tested like that. "You better cool off. I'm losing my patience." "Good. That makes it 2 of us." And as they get ready to go down or throw down with the get down, well, the quick heartbeat passes and they contemplate attacking each other before wisely deciding to back down. Jim Downing decides to back down wisely. And Al's like, "Look, man, I just want to see them." So they transport each other out of there, and moments later they reform into a shadows of some hidden dungeon. Downing leads, Spawn follows. And where Spawn is followed to by Jim Downing is this chamber where Overkill and Sargor are in a tank. In other words, Jim Downing tells him, "Look, you gave them life by giving air in their lungs, but you made their bodies move. But what about their brains? It's rotted, so I'm resuscitating them or regenerating them." And he's saying, "As best as I can, I infused them." Jim Downing infused them with his own blood, but it'll be a long process, probably 6 to 8 months. And Spawn's like, "Okay, where's the freak?" Out running some missions. He's the furthest developed of the 3. "So does this meet your approval, Spawn? Am I worthy of jumping on board with you?" And Spawn just looks like, "No, man, you idiot." And he clobbers him. "Get back. You used your own blood? Malboja and Clown poisoned it when you were in your coma. You've got tracers inside of you. Now you've passed them on. I need them to be clean. You've made them into hybrids." And Jim Downing's like, "I was saving them." Downing unleashes his own pent-up anger. But the energy Downing displays catches Spawn by surprise. He needs to assert his dominance because, alpha gotta do what alpha gotta do. And as much as he doesn't want to waste unnecessary power given his weakened state, Spawn knows he needs to be the alpha dog. Right now. And he walks up to him and stops those beams right away. "I made you hoping you'd be someone special, someone the world could count on. If you're not going to do that, if you're not going to fight for that, then I'll take you out right now," says Spawn. "You need to get way stronger or you'll be useless to me." And this is referencing back in Spawn issue 185, which I obviously haven't covered. And, I just jumped into Spawn at issues 317 and up. And now I'm going back from 296 moving forward. And, dude, this is awesome. That's all I got to say. "Now get them out of that machinery," says Spawn. "Go to hell, I don't answer to you." "Fine," says Spawn. So he punches that machinery, he punches the glass himself, and after a few blows, it crashes and breaks open. Overkill is on the floor. He gets up, "Master." Jim Downey's like, "Yo, man, he can't survive out of his chamber. I have to put his tubes back in." "Overkill, get your tubes." That's his command. "Don't worry," says Al. "He'll survive." This one was built to endure anything. Overkill stands up, ready to do his thing. I'm more concerned about Psychor and Freak. They're coming like you told us, Master. The bad ones are coming. They are, but we'll be ready, says Spawn. And we go into this other panel in North Dakota. There were some good folks in this good part in the good decade that always had a smile on their face and a kind word to say. But we see these dead folks, husband and wife, we can assume, and this cock. Man, put some flowers, some chicken, some barbecue sauce. I'm ready to eat that.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Chicken. I'm not going to say the other C word. Hot sauce sounds good too. Anyways, back to the content. They never caused any trouble with the couple that's on the bench. At least none of the locals knew about it. And I said the bench are actually on a rocking chair and bugs are flying around, but he didn't have a choice. He had to kill them. And it was easy for him to do even when the elder lady screamed for mercy. See, they actually weren't human. They've been pretending all those years as they were biding their time, preparing, waiting for their great war to begin. And we see Gunslinger Spawn, and unfortunately for them, Gunslinger Spawn has been making preparations of his own. They just happen to get in his way. And that's where we end this issue of Spawn, issue number 311, The Cult of Omega. To me, I think this is an engaging read that would keep you and the readers on the edge of your seat. It definitely kept me on the edge of my seat, and I was obviously intrigued by it. I love Spawn. I love the Spawn issues. I'm excited to see where the events of this issue takes our heroes or anti-heroes next. So what do you think is behind all the disappearances? Comment below, let me know. But yeah, dude, I'm looking forward to the story arc right here, and let's get to it. Previously on the Cult of Omega, this is Cult of Omega Part 2. Gunslinger Spawn is gearing up for a savage battle ahead of him, and Al reaches out to an old ally. So we see Gunslinger Spawn in the barn getting his shotgun ready, putting the bullets inside. He doesn't know why or how he got to this future, but he does know they'll come for him. Eventually, they'll come. They always do. That's okay. He's ready for them. He's prepared himself by bathing in the barn's cold shadows. He has to seek out the darkness from time to time so his body can endure the sunshine. But unlike other spawns, he likes doing most of his work in broad daylight, mostly because his enemies haven't developed the same endurance for it as he has, but they've never been able to resist the temptation of an easy target, so he might as well give him one. And this dusty porch in some godforsaken patch of land is the perfect setting. All he needs to do now is wait as he smokes a cigarette and wait for the action to come to him. So meanwhile in Spawn's headquarters, Mark, he's been pouring himself over data readings and map sequencing for most of his day, just like he's been doing every day since Spawn brought him back to his secret hideout. Mark knows it's for its own protection, but that hasn't made it any easier on him. Jessica Priest walks in and she's like asking Mark, wondering if he knew where Al went. And then Mark is like, didn't I just say he had to go out? He had things he needed to do, but if you don't mind, Jessica, I'm in the middle of something, just let your boy do his work. So Jessica Priest continues peppering him with questions until he can't take it anymore. When he turns, Jessica Priest is gone. All we see now is She-Spawn looking good too. Well, says She-Spawn, when you see him, tell him I have to go out too. And Mark is like, I just don't get it with you guys. You guys just flick your costumes on and off and come and go as you please while I'm stuck here in this shithole doing all the work, but you get to dive in and out of shadows going who knows God wheres. Don't know how you guys do this stuff so easily. She gives him a little kiss on the cheek. It's like, oh, because response. But you should try it sometime. Anyway, when Al gets back, tell him not to wait up. I had a few errands to run. And Mark is like, errands? What the heck does that mean? So she's gone before she can answer that question. Now, as time goes off, the evening melts into morning as Mark continues his extensive research in tracking some of the other spawns that have been unleashed here on Earth because of Spawn's time rip. But in the back of his mind, he can't get rid of this one nagging thought. F it, so he walks away from his work, walks into the room, and he's like, Jessica's right, maybe I should try being a Hellspawn. But he sees Medieval's costume lying on the bed, so he picks up the sword. As he attempts to lift it, it's like that Avengers Age of Ultron where all the heroes, except for Thor, try to lift Thor's Mjolnir hammer and they just couldn't do it. It doesn't budge, so he's looking to himself, that's just stupid. But he looks at the helmet and he's like, well, he gets surprised with this next move. He puts it on and takes some sassy selfies with it, and it's kind of funny. But now all of a sudden, with the helmet on, he can finally lift the obscenely heavy sword. He's like, oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And if Mark can really see himself, Mark will recognize how silly he looks right now. The helmet is 5 sizes too big for his head, making him look like a human-sized bobblehead doll. And he's also too engrossed to notice a green glow beginning to emanate from the sword. As the glow builds up, so does the pain Mark feels like his atoms are being shredded by multiple Nightling bolts at once. As the pain increases, Mark simply blacks out, though his body continues to convulse. Now back into the barn, like clockwork, Gunslinger's wait is about to end. The only thing that bothers him is how fast they found him, as these crows, kind of congregate together. And it's curious how this small descending flock is a very small flock when he's used to about 100 crows at a time, not a dozen. But as they morph together, it becomes clear why it's such a small flock. And it's the Redeemer, and he pulls his shotgun, and I'm like, yo man, that's close enough. You know what these bullets can do to you, right? He's like, I know. I've seen what your victims look like. Most times it was your fault. They got that way. Strange you follow me here, says Gunslinger. That's not how you usually do it. And Redeemer's like, I'm not following you, man. He's like, it don't matter. You're here just like me. I bet it was willingly, though. You know where we are, says Gunslinger. And Redeemer's like, we're in the 21st century. And he's like, I figure I saw a bunch of contraptions, and this house didn't make so much sense. How do you want to do this? Do you want to go first, or do you want me to make the first move? And Gunslinger's like, ready to throw down. And Redeemer's like, yo, my man, I'm not here for you. Not yet. I'm here to deliver a warning. Others won't be as patient as I am. They're now in the war against all spawns, not just you. And since you don't have enough sense to hide, you can see what that means. And other flux of crows coming over that happen to be not Redeemer. And Gunslinger's like, man, I'm ready. How about you? And Redeemer's like, things are different now. You're not going to be able to control things the way you are in the past. Trust me, I've seen the future, and neither of us will be able to stop what's coming. I wonder if that's a foreshadowing for the Scorch now that we know, now that I'm catching back up into this issue, after the fact. What about Cog? Is he part of it, says Gunslinger? And Redeemer's like, you'll have to figure that out on your own. So as he departs, other far more sinister and darker angels appear and swoop in for their kill. And these dark Hell's Angels or Heaven's Angels are like, don't let him escape, brothers. Gunslinger tosses a cigarette to the side, and Gunslinger allows himself a smile before some fun's about to begin. The first of his power-tipped bullets explodes, and he shoots, and it hits the target on contact, and that shall get their attention as his head explodes. Flank him! He can't disappear in the shadows. The Hail Spawn lose some of their powers when they time jump. And sadly, Gunslinger Spawn knows they're right about this. So they throw the knives at him. He deflects them or blocks them with this wood panel. He throws the chair inside of the window, goes in as Heaven's Warriors attack him. But what Heaven's Warriors have miscalculated is that this Spawn has been through this situation dozens of times before. He shoots, blasts them off, knocking them out one by one, ending their life. Now, the upside of getting pulled forward in time is the innovation that also move forward with these weapons, creating possibilities and results that even Gunslinger finds staggering. He shoots this sniper bullet, it hits his angel from afar, this pretty much takes a chunk out of him, and he realized, yo man, this playing feels kind of level, and he's kind of digging it, but he notices something from the side, and he gets tackled like an NFL linebacker tackling a punter. And this is funny because he just gets tackled from the side, and like some overseas military zone that's being raided, this battle festers longer than Gunslinger was hoping. The angels he's used to weren't nearly as trained or as savage as these. So he meets every attack head on with the same intensity as his enemies. On and on and on, Gunslinger fights brutally, doing anything necessary with whatever methods are needed. And he does it until the battlefield falls silent and their screams have all gone quiet. He wins this battle. Now in this panel, halfway around the world, Spawn is with Jim Downing and a resurrected Overkill and Cyborg. And Jim Downey's like, are they gonna be okay? And Spawn's like, do you care? And he's like, well, I do care, but do your Spawn thing. Maybe, when your anger wears off, you'll be able to resuscitate them or rejuvenate them. And Jim Downing asks, so how's Cyborg doing, the gorilla? And Spawn's like, I don't know yet. His metabolic rates aren't coping well with your blood. The infusion you gave him created a tornado. His body can't fire like Overkill's because it's regenerating slower than his. So I don't know if or how fast he'll recover. And Jim Downey's like, I can help. You don't get it, do you, says Spawn. You poison him with your blood. You might as well give him a death sentence already. And even if he does recover, he'll be a target for the rest of his life. They're going to be coming for him thinking it's you or me or another Spawn. The same with Overkill. So I think you've done plenty. Back off, Jim Downey, says Spawn. So Jim Downey's like, why not fix him with your powers? And Spawn's like, I can't. Not the way you think I can. I'm recovering too. Trying to regain the powers I lost when I ripped open that hole in time. The reason you're alive, Jim, that you're even standing here today, that cost me. It drained most of what I had. What are you talking about? What you used on me, just use on them. I was sending you a message, says Spawn. And Jim Downey's like, and now you've got nothing left? You have to show me off instead of saving Cyborg? That's some nice priorities. And this is referencing the previous issue. And Spawn's like, you poisoned them. I didn't know that. And Jim Downey's like, I thought you knew everything. Ice cold silence follows, and then Downey pushes Spawn past, and he's like, okay, this is done. My turn. So he goes over to Cygor and tells him, it's okay, big fella, this won't hurt. So he uses his powers to rejuvenate him. In truth, Jim Downey doesn't know that, but a momentary mind meld digs deep into Cygor's skull. When he backs away, Spawn notices Downey almost losing his entire footing. Whatever he did took a toll on him too. Miraculously, minutes later, the cybernetic gorilla seems to have made a dramatic recovery, but Spawn sees Jim hasn't done the same. His body continues to shiver. You okay, says Spawn. I'm fine, says Jim. Look, man, says Spawn, I'm sorry I came at you so hard. I had to protect him, but you can help with that. They're coming for us, all of us, and a giant war is going to break out. We can help each other. Join us. Get your damn hands off me, says Jim Downey. For me, you don't get to come here and threaten me, then change your mind. That's just not how it works. And then Spawn's like, okay. He uses his necroplasm to transport them, but he leaves Jim Downey with the final message. I used to be just like you. Thought I could do everything alone, that I could protect everyone. Instead, people got hurt, and some that I cared deeply about got killed. So you do your thing. Let me know how that turns out for you. A heartbeat later, Spawn, Cygor, and Overkill are gone, and Jim Downey is left to wonder if it was even worth coming out of his recent coma for all this. And that's where we end this issue of Spawn, issue number 312, Cult of Omega, part 2. Look, man, I'm wondering where in the heck Omega Spawn's at, but it seems like Omega Spawn is the backup character behind the scenes character, working all this catastrophe, all this destruction, while meanwhile Spawn is trying to figure out what's coming next. But I'm looking forward to how this is going to turn out, and link in description if you wish to add this comic book to your comic book collection. Support the art, support the industry. Previously on Spawn 312, Spawn needs help, and the only hero who can be of use is another Spawn. In this case, that is Jim Downey, the man who once wore the same symbiote costume as Al Simmons himself. Now, in this aftermath of Gunslinger Spawn taking out Heaven's armies, these angels, these sinister angels, he needs to clean up the mess that he made, and a mess he did make. And the more he thinks about that mess, the more enraged he gets, mostly at himself for not reading the signs. And the signs were Calicioso practically rubbed Gunslinger's face in his plans, and like an idiot, Gunslinger took his bait. Cog didn't really think Gunslinger would just join his side by asking. No! He knew this Spawn would reject him, just like he'd done a dozen times before. But that was a century ago, and Cog was becoming an old man, more irrelevant as each day passed. A con artist whose craft had become tired and stale. At least that was the image Calicioso projected back then. Was that all a con too? Was he simply lulling everyone into turning their gaze away from him? And the way he spoke the other day to Gunslinger's human host, it almost sounded as if he'd been in this time for quite a while. So Gunslinger Spawn is just thinking about what needs to be done, and he's just like, what the hell's going on? But for years, Cog bragged about being able to command God's warriors. None paid him much attention. But if he's now come forward in time like Gunslinger and had the power to assemble a horde of dark angels, yo man, that's a freaking problem. And it doesn't matter how easily Gunslinger took him out. The bigger issue is that for some reason, Heaven has given credence enough to allow their dark soldiers to be under Cog's orders. He threatened many times to hunt down Gunslinger's family and slaughter them one by one. Gunslinger struggled up to the rantings of a madman, because how could he hunt down a family that didn't even exist back then and never made any sense? But what's becoming clear is he never met Gunslinger's current family, which have been decimated. He was talking about the family 3 generations in the future. And Gunslinger knew cutting Cog's head off wouldn't kill him, and that's going back to the previous issues of Spawn 308 and 309. As Gunslinger Spawn gets on his high horse, he gets on the horse literally and rides off to get this shit done. Gunslinger knew cutting Cog's head off wouldn't kill him. He did it as a symbolic message. The same message Gunslinger has delivered to everyone and everything that's ever gotten his way. You mess with me, I'm gonna mess with you. This creed was simple. The only ones that didn't understand it were God and Satan's servants, and that's fine with him because he's got a little bit more steam he desperately needs to let out. He charges toward the oncoming dust trail, and though since his arrival in time, in the current time, he's seen dozens of adventures he can't quite understand, and this is the first time he's encountered a metal horse, one which Jessica Priest, or in general a woman, is riding, and she's riding that black beast like a pro, baby.
What do you mean by that?
But Gunslinger's about to find out that not only can women do things they couldn't do 150 years ago, this woman does them better than almost every other man. And her name is Jessica Priest G-Spawn. She gets off, she walks up to him, and Gunslinger Spawn's like, yo man, that's as far as you go. And she goes up to him like, okay, what's happened to you? I'm sure it's not making much sense. I can help you with that. He's like, I don't need your help. And she's like, yes, you do. You actually do. But she doesn't flinch, and her unflinching manner surprises him. She stares him down, unafraid, and that intrigues Gunslinger Spawn. Okay, girl, you got 1 minute. I'm guessing you never asked to be a Spawn or ever wanted all the bullshit complications that go along with it. Now here you are, dragged 150 years into the future trying to figure this out and how to get back. And that's not going to happen, at least not anytime soon. But there are more like you, a dozen more like you. They're all going through the same thing you are, but one of them, the Spawn that brought you here, he's weak right now, and he has nowhere near the power to be able to send you back to your current timeline. That means you're stuck here for a while, whether you like it or not. So you can go out alone if you want, but if that Spawn who brought you here doesn't survive, then you're never gonna go back. Girl, says Gunslinger Spawn, I don't know who you are, whose side you're on, but I found all of us from hell. We're not created equal or the same, and some of us are a little bit stronger than the others, and some of us are a lot stronger, and this is Gunslinger Spawn's power me. So don't mess with me, girl. If you know what's best for you, you'll stay out of my way, because I need to find someone right now who's more important than you. Okay, whatever. But that horse you're on, it'll take you far too long. And she knows she's planting a seed to need Gunslinger Spawn's help in the future. So she can't change his mind now, but she could plant a seed of goodwill for the future. So she turns that bike and gives it to Gunslinger Spawn. So now Gunslinger has a tiny smile on his face, and he's happy with that. And he just needs a few tutorials on how to ride this metal contraption, as he would call it, so he can ride off and do business that he's got to do and take care of some shit. But yet something oddly catches Jessica Priest's eye, something out of place, as she goes into the crime scene and investigates or looks over the death of all these dark angels. If Gunslinger fought a bunch of dark angels, why is this here? She picks it up and it's a white leaf, and she knows it's Redeemers. As she contemplates what that might mean, the black angels all begin to disintegrate. Now somewhere unknown into the laboratory, Spawn is trying to bring it back. Cygor as Overkill is watching on. This is going back to the previous issue. Remember, Jim Downey infused Cygor and Overkill with this blood, which just slowed down the recovery. Now Simmons is angry. He heads to Mark's room, and Mark is not there. And no matter where he looks, Mark seems to be gone, and so is Jessica. And in the computer room, Al finds a pile of Mark's files. Inside, there are a few clues as to where his missing visitors has gone. Al's angry, and his anger only grows. What could they have been thinking, he asked himself. And Spawn looks to Overkill like, yo man, I need to make you undead. You still need time to recover like Cygor. You're already behind schedule, plus I have someplace to go. He goes to locate Mark and Jessica Priest. No, I come too, says Overkill. Though he knows he might regret it, Simmons also knows he is at a weakened state, and truthfully, he can use some backup. He takes a few minutes getting prepared, then warps the two of them in his cape before melting into the shadows, transporting them halfway around the globe. And this obviously God's Overkill kind of transportation sickness motion, kind of, if you want to call it that. I don't know what the term is, but yeah, he's sick. He has to let it out a little bit. Whoever's on that island that Spawn's looking for, he is hoping that that person forgot that they both can breathe underwater. Yes, Spawn's plan is to walk along the bottom of the sea to get to the island. He's tested his weaponry, and they can handle being submerged in salt water. He doesn't know the same about Overkill being, submerged that deep into salt water that that long. Ultimately, he'll never know that answer because the ground beneath him begins to start and pulsate and the sand begins to shudder. Overkill's leg sinks into the deep white sand before he's quickly swallowed to his torso. Something is grabbing him. Desperately, Spawn tries to save his drowning partner. And any other time he would have easily had the strength, but right now, not in his current weakened state, and he has to preserve his strength because he don't know what lies ahead of him and he might need it later. Eventually, he loses his grip and he loses Overkill, leaving only a split second for him to try something different. Shoots to the ground, nothing, and then the earth vomits something. And this time, it's Overkill that earth vomits him back out, and Spawn clutches Overkill with the death grip, harnessing every ounce of energy he has left. The struggle to exact this monstrous partner feels like it's taken forever. In reality, it's slightly more than 5 minutes. The heroes collapse back and lay on the warm sand, though their solace is short-lived as the sand again begins to tremble. Harder and harder, the ground shakes, and then it releases its birthing. This fucking monolith right here, when the smoke clears, Spawn sees a gigantic creature with bloodlust in his eyes. More concerning is this thing is scarred with the mark of a hellspawn. This guy looks imposing as hell. The first move comes from Overkill. No, says Spawn, you're not ready. And Overkill just lays haymaker after haymaker onto him. What ensues is a brawl so completely one-sided that Spawn can barely force himself to watch. Crack! As Monolith lays another punch to his jaw. Mechanical parts and guts are scattered everywhere as he impales Overkill with his own fist in his midsection. And now the killing blow as he lifts up and delivers it, or he's about to deliver. Spawn's like, stop! Don't freaking move! Surprisingly, the creature listens. The hell spawns stare down one another. They call me Monolith. And Spawn's like, I don't give a shit. Lays, unloads everything in his arsenal on him. This may be some malformed hybrid Spawn, but as it lunges like some raging bull, Spawn only cares about exacting his revenge. And that's where we end this issue of Spawn, issue number 313. I love how you get introduced of Gunslinger Spawn and Jessica Caprice when they have the first interaction in an engaging way. It shows the challenges that each of them are dealing with. Spawn knows she needs to plant seeds in the future to get Gunslinger's help later on. So that planting a good seed for good measure, giving him a bike, that is really a good measure that will plant a good seed down the line, as we later discover in Gunslinger Spawn issue, where Gunslinger Spawn seeks her out and as he eventually joins the Scorch, which we cover the Gunslinger Spawn issues and all the Scorch issues in this channel. Link in description. Check out the Spawn playlist, Gunslinger Spawn playlist, King Spawn playlist, and the Scorch playlist at the end of this video. So yeah, I dug it. I'm looking forward to catching up on the rest of the issues. Now, Spawn 314, I did do a review on way back like a year and a half ago, but I'm going to redo it and give it more of a breakdown than I did before. So I'm looking forward to that. And this is a complete story arc of the Cult of Omega. Link in description if you wish to add any of these comic books to your comic book collection. Support the art, support the industry. With all that being said, Spawn, issue number 313. What you guys think of the comic book? Comment below, let me know. And also, if you like the content we're throwing up, you know what to do. Don't be shy, don't be stingy. Here at Rated Comics, we do awesome comic book reviews, comic book related content with the occasional comic book giveaway. And also, this video is sponsored by coffee, so if you'd like to buy your boy a cup of coffee, link in description. But the greatest compliment you guys can do is by liking this video and subscribing to this channel. Thank you again for watching. Until next time.